Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sammy Ketchum, and welcome back to Sammy Ketchum TCG. Alright, tonight we are going to be taking a look at a new version of my Pikachu EX deck. Alright? We're going to be taking a look at a new version of my Pikachu EX deck. I just got back from Sacramento Regionals. Actually early this morning. Well, early this afternoon I just got back. And I'm already doing this deck profile. I actually played this at Sacramento Regionals. So I played this new version of the deck there, and I say it did pretty well. It did pretty well. Even though I didn't make day 2, I only have 2 losses in day 1. Only 2 losses. 3 wins, 2 losses, and I had 3 ties. So, but I'll talk about those ties a little later. I'll also talk about my wins, what I saw, what I went through, well, as far as the deck goes, as far as the deck goes, talking about the deck, not like my experience, but let me just go ahead and jump into this and start talking about the deck, and as I go, I'll find a way to fit that all in. All right. 3 copies of Pikachu EX. Alright. Pikachu EX has 200 HP. Has the, what is that called? Yeah. Resolute Heart ability, which is fantastic. Alright. What this says is that if this Pokemon is at full HP and it will be knocked out by damage, alright, then it is not knocked out and it has 10 HP left instead. Alright? So there's that. It also has the Topaz Bolt attack for lightning, a grass, and a metal energy. 300 damage, a whopping 300 damage. But you have to discard 3 energies from it. You have to discard 3 energies from this Pokemon. So literally all the energies from this Pokemon. Now, there is a way in this deck that Pikachu can have more than 3 energies on it. So that when you use the attack, you're discarding 3, but you're not discarding all the energies. Alright? So, but that's what this deck does. 2 copies of Miraidon EX. Miraidon EX is so good, it's so busted, that in its own deck, literally went and won Sacramento Regionals. That's how good Miraidon is. Miraidon's ability, Tandem Unit, allowing you to get out your electric basic Pokemon, up to 2 for each. This card is so good, and it's also a very decent attacker. Photon Blaster for 220 is not shabby either. Now, Miraidon isn't in here to be an attacker. Miraidon is a support Pokemon in this deck, but it's so good in its support. I wanted to include it, as like second fiddle to Pikachu, because Miraidon is just that good. As a support Pokemon, it is just that good. And if you wanted to, you could power him up in this deck, but it's not needed. One copy of Iron Hands EX. Iron Hands EX is literally the second attacker in this deck. Going up against all the little baby Pokemon, the little basic Pokemon that are under 120 damage. You could take 2 prizes on them easily with Amp You Very Much. I don't have to explain too much about Iron Hands because he is just great. He's great in the Miraidon deck. That's why one of the reasons Miraidon can win is with Iron Hands. It's great in there, and it's great in here for the same reasons. Now, we get to the real good part of this deck. 2 copies of Joltik. Alright? 2 copies of Joltik. Now, Joltik is amazing in this deck. And Joltik gets this whole deck, this whole engine going. Alright? I think he's from Shrouded Fable, I think. I'm not too sure. Or one of the sets before. Maybe it was Stellar Crown. I'm thinking Stellar Crown. Yep, he was from Stellar Crown. Because Galvantula. He was from Stellar Crown. Okay. Stellar Crown, I think. Or, I don't know. I'm not sure. But anyway, this Joltik is absolutely broken. Alright? With this Jolting Charge attack, it lets you search for 2 grass and 2 lightning energies. And you can attach them to your Pokemon, your bench Pokemon, in any way you like. So you get 4 energies right off the bat and attach them to your Pokemon. Now, beforehand, when this card first came out, I did not like this card because I just didn't like the attack, just going to search the energy, but you're not doing any damage. Alright, I didn't like that, and he could just easily get knocked out. I really didn't like that, but the reason why I like him now in this format is because in this format we've got a ton of setup decks, a ton of evolution decks, a ton of setup decks that want to go first. And they want to go first, they want to set up, and they're not, some of them are slow, but they're slow enough that this can basically get off the attack, get the 4 energies in play, and have your Pokemon rolling. You know, your Pikachu, your Iron Hands, your Pikachu and Iron Hands in most cases. So you can get 2 Pikachus up, or a Pikachu and an Iron Hands, things like that. Very, very, very good. And after this guy gets them set up, you are literally have a threatening board of, you know, you've got not only 1 attacker powered up, 2 attackers powered up. You're ready for not only the next turn, but the next 2 to 3 turns possibly. After this guy sets up your Pokemon, this little guy. So the Joltik is really, really very important in this deck. 1 copy of Raikou V. Alright. Has its draw ability when it's in the active, you can draw a card. And its Lightning Rondo isn't too shabby either if you want to use him as an attacker. He's not really in here to be an attacker. He's just in here as a Forest Seal Stone target. You know, which is important as well because Forest Seal Stone can search out any card in your deck. So, but he can also be an attacker because we also play Area 0 in this deck. And we can play this deck just like Miraidon and go wide bench Miraidon, get out Raikou, and Raikou can hit for big damage. So that's another element that we have. We can play this deck like a Miraidon deck, where you can attack with all the attackers from Miraidon. Bloodmoon Ursaluna, another card that's in Miraidon decks. Basically, this is going to be like a late game clutch attacker. If you don't have a Pika you can attack with, or Iron Hands, or Raikou, whatever, you know, your opponent has 2 prizes, 1 prize. You can get this guy out for 1 to no energies and attack with him. You know, maybe you have the boss to get there or whatever, but this guy, Bloodmoon Ursaluna, is so clutch, and for good reason. I mean, they included him in the Miraidon deck as well. I mean, some decks don't play it, but most Miraidon decks do play with Bloodmoon Ursaluna. So, also another card Miraidon plays with is the new Latias EX. Latias EX has this ability, Skyline. It allows all of your basic Pokemon to have free retreat. And this whole deck is basics. This whole entire deck is basics except for Magneton. So all of your Pokemon have free retreat. Pikachu's, Iron Hands, even Bloodmoon Ursaluna with like 3 retreat costs has free retreat. So that is amazing. This card is amazing, everybody. This card single-handedly has people cutting their switch carts. Which actually they should not do, by the way. Do not cut your switch carts just for this. At least leave like 1 in your deck, because you're going to need to get around things like control and stall. So do not cut all your switch carts for this. But this is a great inclusion to give your Pokemon free retreat. Copy of Fezandipiti in that. Fezandipiti, yes. We all know what he does. Your opponent knocks out your Pokemon on your last turn. During your last turn, you get to draw up the 3 cards on your turn to help you out. Also, this can also be an attacker. I mean, all of his energy costs are colorless. I mean, you really will never use him as an attacker. But he can be. So can the Mew. Which is what we're talking about next. Mew EX. Mew EX can also be an attacker. But you're really not going to use him as an attacker. He's a support. Helps you draw up to 3 cards. If your hand is low. If they Iono you or unfair stamp you, this is the perfect card to have on the board. You can draw your hand back. With Mew and Fezandipiti, you could draw potentially up to 6 cards. Squawkabilly EX, very good for those first turn shenanigans. Discard your hand, draw 6, give you a fresh new hand. Lumineon V, we all know what he does. Alright, a 2/2 line of Magneton EX. Now, I did have a 3/3 line in here, but I just realized I only need really to get off 1 Magneton. So I didn't need the 3. Going heavy into the Magneton is not the way to go, because you do not want to give your opponent that many prizes. You want to try to have as much energy acceleration without using the Magneton. If you have to use the Magneton, then okay, you use the Magneton, boom, get it off at least once, and then you're off to the races. Or this could basically help you to win the game on that game-winning turn pop the Magneton, and then, get the energies on your Pikachu or whatever and get your last 2 prizes. You know what I'm saying? But this is in no way something you're going to depend on to basically set up, because we have many, many different ways of accelerating energies. All right? Three copies of who's a what's it? Iono. The electric type gym leader from Scarlet and Violet. It's fitting that Iono is in this deck because she's an electric type gym leader. And this card is amazing. It is an amazing disruption, to disrupt your opponent, because you're going to need to disrupt your opponent. I don't care what anybody says, you need to disrupt your opponent. All right? In the beginning of the game, sometimes you draw a really bad hand. Iono can just get you a fresh 6 new cards in the beginning of the game. Mid to late game, you disrupt your opponent, you take away their game-winning hand. Take away that boss for game. Take away the catchers or whatever. Take away that game-winning hand that they're just sitting there building up. Just waiting for you to pass turn. And you're just gonna sit there and let them have their hand without playing some sort of disruption? You're crazy. You're crazy. None of the Miraidon decks that were in the top 2 had disruption in their deck. That's scary. That is literally scary. I don't know how they got up there. They got up there. They won the tournament, but they have no disruption. If they just were unlucky and something happened where their opponent had the nuts in hand and they weren't able to respond, they were going to get their butts kicked, and they wouldn't win. They wouldn't be at the top 2. But Miraidon was so fast, was so good in doing what it did, that it won the tournament. Both decks did really well. Both decks got up there and they became the top 2, facing off against each other. I just think that was amazing, because Miraidon is literally probably my favorite deck right now. It is literally my favorite deck right now. And I literally made this build like a Miraidon build. So, I mean, go figure. 3 bosses orders. 2 copies of Crispin. I originally only had 1 copy of Crispin in here, because really, you really only need 1, but sometimes you definitely need 2. Sometimes you need 2, and then sometimes your Crispin can get prized. If you can't find the Crispin, or it gets prized or something, like I've had that happen, and it hurts when you can't find this card. This is an energy acceleration more card. After you power up your Pokemon with Joltik, and you get off a Pika attack or an Iron Hands attack or whatever, after you discarded the energies with Pikachu and you have the crystal attached, you can just go Crispin, power it up again, and then you're ready to go again. And then that same Pikachu, if it's still alive, which because it has that Resolute Heart ability, you can go Crispin again, powering up again, and you can just keep it going. And you won't even need to touch a Magneton. Ever. So this energy acceleration is another form of energy acceleration that helps out without using Magneton, without giving your opponent a prize. That's what you want to go for. 2 copies of Arven to help you find a tool and an item. Sparkling Crystal, Nest Ball, Earthen Vessel. I said Forest Hill Stone, right? Forest Hill Stone, Sparkling Crystal, etc. Oh, Defiance Band. Defiance Band is big. Three copies of Nest Ball. Alright. Find your basics. This whole deck is basics, so these can find all your basics. I really do want to include a fourth one, but this deck is tight. And 3 is just enough. And the reason why 3 is enough is because we have Miraidon in this deck. Miraidon makes it okay for me to go 3 Nest Balls. And the reason being is because Miraidon has a built-in Battle VIP pass for electric type Pokemon, and most of the Pokemon in this deck is electric type Pokemon, just like in a Miraidon, in a regular Miraidon build. All of the Pokemon in this deck, every single one of them are in a Miraidon deck. Every single one of them is in the Miraidon deck. So that was my goal. You know what I'm saying? So I'm using the same Pokemon as Miraidon, but you know, it's very spicy because Miraidon is a support and it just helps churn the deck. 4 copies of Ultra Ball helps you find your Lumineons and your Magnetons. I mean, sometimes even your basics too, but you know, you've got 3 of them. 2 copies of Earthen Vessel. You have lots of energies in this deck, lots of different types of energies. And sometimes you need a certain type of energy, like the metal energy, which you only have 3 of in this deck. Sometimes you may need a grass, sometimes you may need an electric or lightning. But these will help you find your energies when you need them. I would not skimp on the 2. I don't want to skimp on the 2, so I have 2. 1 copy of Pal Pad to put back your supporters. Your things like Crispin, Boss, even Iono sometimes. Maybe even the Arven, you know. But this is very good to put back your supporters after you either used them or discarded them. Now, this could be a cuttable card. You could put something in for it if you wanted to. This would probably be the first card I would cut. 1 copy of Switch card. You gotta have some type of switching card in here. And this is it. 1 copy of Counter Catcher. I do kind of want to play a second one, because the second one will be very, very good. And the reason why Counter Catcher is really good is because you have Magneton in here. Sometimes you could go pop the Magneton, give your opponent a prize. Now they are up on prizes, and now you can use Counter Catcher to bring up one of your opponent's Pokemon, gust them up, knock them out, or whatever. But this could be very good, not just when you pop a Magneton. This can also be good early on if they get an early knockout, you know, and you haven't taken a prize, but they have. Free Gust. 1 copy of Super Rod. Super Rod is good in this deck because we have the 2 Crispin, alright, that we can activate. You know, you put energies back into the deck after you've attacked with Pika and discarded them. After you, you know, Iron Hands attacks and it gets knocked out. You Super Rod your energies or even Pokemon back into the deck. And then you can Crispin again. Crispin again, attached to the Pikachu. Pikachu attacks again. It's just another way that helps the energy acceleration It helps the flow of things. Pikachu, Crispin, Super Rod, I'm back, Crispin again. Sparkling Crystal. It snowballs. That's why this is in here. That's why this is good. Just to note, the second place list of Miraidon had a Super Rod in it. It was very good. It was very clutch. I saw him on stream use the Super Rod to put back energies back into his deck and then play a generator and hit with the generator. It was so good. I was just like, yes, 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 yes. Because this is also good in Miraidon. And I also have this in my Miraidon list. And it has saved me many times because I Super Rodded energies back into the deck. And then I use generator because now I have more energies in the deck. More chances that my generator is going to hit 2 energies. And I could power up my Pokemon, get them out to attack, and I could potentially be in a winning position. So whoever said that Super Rod is not good in Miraidon, it is. Sparkling Crystal. Best card for Pikachu EX. Best card for Terra Pokemon because they have different energy costs. Some of them do. And this allows you to basically have 1 less energy. So now Pika's Topaz Bolt attack is 2 energies. So you could just go a lightning and a grass, or a grass and a metal, or a lightning and a metal. And then you can still use the attack. And you don't have to discard 3. You just discard the energy that's on him, or you're just fulfilling as much as possible. Because this cuts your energy cost, down to 1, you know what I'm saying? This allows you to only discard 2 instead of the 3. It's really good. This is also great with Crispin. So you go Crispin, attach, discard. Next turn, Crispin, attach, discard. And you can keep it going as long as the Pikachu is alive. So that is what's really good. And it's really scary. I pulled off some amazing combos with this Crispin Pikachu all day long Saturday playing at Sacramento. Forest Hill Stone, self-explanatory. You've got Lumineon and you've got Raikou V in here that can both utilize the Forest Hill Stone. Attached to one of them, you flip over the V-Star marker. You can search your deck for any card, any one card, and add it to your hand. So broken. Defiance Band. Defiance Band is so good in this deck. I used this many times on Saturday and Sunday when I was playing inside events. Defiance Band on the Pikachu against a Charizard or a Dragapult, or against a Hydreigon or anything that's like bigger than 300, and your opponent is up on prizes and you haven't taken that many prizes. Defiance Band is so good when you have more prizes than your opponent. And I've used it with Pika. I've used it with a lot of my Pokemon in my deck. So this is very good and it helps Pika to get there. Area 0 Underdepths. Self-explanatory. You have 8 bench Pokemon. Just like wide bench Miraidon, this deck can go wide bench Pika. Pika is a Terra Pokemon, so it fills the requirements to have 8 bench Pokemon. And it's your main attacker. You know what I'm saying? So you go wide And you can have all your support Pokemon, your Magneton, your Mew, your Fezandipiti, your Lumineon, your Squawkabilly, you name it. Every single support Pokemon you can have. You can even have your attackers, your Raikou, Miraidon sitting on the bench, Pikachu, Latias. The list goes on and on and on. But this is so good because you're able to just use all of your support like you want to. And you're able to, you know, execute your game plan. This is also good with Raikou V. If you have Raikou V become an attacker, he can be a very, 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 very good attacker with the wide bench. 8-bench Pokemon, your opponent having, you know, their 5 or whatever on their bench. You can literally take advantage of that, you know, if you wanted to. One copy of Gravity Mountain. Gravity Mountain helps you get over those stage 2 Pokemon like Charizard, Dragapult, Hydreigon, you name it. But really, really in this instance, Charizard. Charizard is the big bad stage 2 in the format. You can do a lot of sneaky things with this. Actually, you can even hurt Pidgeot a little bit too. You hurt Pidgeot a little bit too. Maybe even Dusknoir. But it just depends. Actually, this does hurt. I think this does hurt Dusknoir. I think Dusknoir is 150. And it brings it down to 120. So you can use Iron Hands on a Dusknoir, play this, and knock it out and take 2 prizes on a Dusknoir if they haven't popped the Dusknoir. So, I mean, there's a lot of different little interactions that you could do with this, but this is very good. And you're stupid if you're not including this in, you know, like a Miraidon or a Pikachu deck or something like that. Three Metal Energy. Four Grass Energy. Not 4, 5 Grass Energy. Why did I say 4 when I've got 5 in my hand? Now, also I've got 5 Lightning Energy as well. We go heavy on the Lightning and the Grass because of Joltik. Joltik gets the party started and we'll get 2 Grass and 2 Lightning from the deck automatically. And you need a lot of these energies in the deck for the Joltik and Crispins to go off. You know what I'm saying? These are kind of like the odd man out. I kind of want to add a 4th one, but you know, we can, you know, it's still decent that we have the 3. Sometimes we're not able to find the metal. So that's a definite inclusion, is the 4th Metal Energy. The 4th Metal Energy is definitely on the table for inclusion. Now, one thing I do want to talk about is what this deck is, what the decks are, what decks this deck is favorable against, and what, you know, what are like the harder matchups or unfavorable matchups for Pikachu. I'm going to start with the favorable matchups. All right. After yesterday, well, not yesterday, but Sunday and Saturday, after playing this deck, actually IRL, you know, I mean, I found some things out. Of course. So I have a little cheat sheet here of favorable matchups, unfavorable matchups. Not just from yesterday, but from even before yesterday when I was testing, you know, PTCG Live, or when I'm testing by myself, I found some of these things out. All right. Favorable matchups. Ceruledge EX. Definite favorable matchups. All they do is basically, you know, they get out Ceruledge, attach energy, you know, discard energy, and they just try to have one, they just got one track mind to do that. The reason why it's favorable is because in the beginning, since they are an evolution deck, they want to go first. They go first. I go second. I get off the Joltik. I attach 4 energies on my board. 2 grass, 2 lightning. I get my Pikas powered up. And then they go. And they go into Ceruledge. They Ceruledge. They knock out. If they don't have a gust, which most of the time they don't, they have to knock out my little baby Joltik. They knock out my little baby Joltik. I make them take a 1 prize. Now, they've taken a 1 prize. I come back up with Pika. Pika literally one-shots the Ceruledge. Easily. Sparkling Crystal. Pika one-shot Ceruledge. Easy. Or I can attach a metal energy for the turn to my other Pika that has 2 energies on it from the Joltik. Go Topaz Bolt, check the Ceruledge, knock it out. And I will still have a Pika on the board with energy on it because of the Joltik. So it is very, very scary for Ceruledge because Ceruledge has to keep up the pace of knocking things out, and you can't really knock out the Pika because it'll have 10 HP left. So, you know, unless the Ceruledge deck packs a canceling cologne or 2, you're not getting past Pikachu EX. Lost Pika. Lost Pika is a favorable matchup. I did face one Saturday, you know, in phase 1. I have to call it phase 1 now because we can't call it day 1 and day 2 anymore. But in phase 1, I did face a lost Pika and I beat it. The reason why lost Pika loses to Pikachu, this Pikachu, is because of Iron Hands. Iron Hands basically takes out the comfies. And then Lost Pika, the other Pokemon in Lost Pika, they are 2 prize Pokemon. Their own Iron Hands, that's a 2 prize Pokemon. They've got either Iron Thorns or Terrapagos or whatever in the deck. All the other Pokemon are 2 prizers. I could take those out easily with Pikachu. And then you take out the comfies with Iron Hands. You know, you just easily just Iron Hands them. You go Joltik. Joltik powers up an Iron Hands and a Pika, and you're set for the whole entire game. Then you can go Crispin, power up Iron Hands, or the Pika. And then you just go from there. So, yeah. Lost Pika loses to Pikachu Iron Hands. Lugia. Lugia definitely is a favorable matchup. I mean, you have the weakness. Lugia cannot handle Pikachu. I mean, it just dies. It just dies. And we got Iron Hands. Iron Hands to a Chincino. Iron Hands to a Archeops. You boss up, counter catcher, Archeops, knock it out. 2 prizes, Iron Hands. Like, you know, all day. Pika all day just poops on Lugia. Just poops on it. Just poops on it. Guardy, same thing. Poops. We poop on Guardy. we've got Iron Hands. Iron Hands poops on Guardy. Guardy is just way too slow. Yes, Guardy has the Monkey Dory that can basically move the damage, you know, to the Pika, and then they can knock out the Pika. But Guardy is still so slow that, you know, even I can just easily use Joltik, power up the Pikas, power up Iron Hands, and I can just clap their cheeks like so easy. Because Guardy is the slowest deck in the format, you know, other than like stall decks, which all they do is stall and control. But Guardy is the slowest meta deck. And it's sad. It's sad because Guardy is a good deck, but it's just slow. Goldingo. We beat Goldingo simply because Pikachu can just knock it straight out. Goldingo doesn't have any staying power on the field because we can just knock it clean out. So when you can knock the Goldingo clean out, you know, and they can't respond, they lose. You know, Goldingo is another deck that wants to go first because they want to get that bench set up. Then they want to go into Goldingo. We want to go second. We want to use the Joltik to power up all our Pokemon. Now that we have all our Pokemon powered up, they bring out Goldingo to knock out a Pokemon. Boom, I'm already ready. I've got Pokemon powered up for at least 2 to 3 turns because I've got 2 Pikas powered up. And then I lose the energies off the Pika because I attack. And then, you know, they attack me. They have to 2-shot me. You know, Goldingo normally doesn't have a way to deal with Pika unless they have a canceling clone. Normally, they don't. But if they have a canceling clone, they could deal with a Pika. But I've got 3 Pikas. If they deal with one, here comes another. You cut the head off one, another one replaces it. Hail Hydra. I think that's how that works. Oh, man. But Goldingo loses because Pika could just clean knock it out. If you have a chance to get off Iron Hands against a gimme goal, that can also be a thing. But with the way that this deck works with the Joltik, you're mainly going to be using Pikachu as the main attacker against the Goldingo. Raging Bolt. This deck has a favorable matchup against Raging Bolt because you just one-shot the Raging Bolt even with the Bravery Charm on them. Raging Bolt with the Bravery Charm only goes up to 290. Pikachu one-shots him easily. Now, if they go second, they do have a chance of, you know, making the game hard. Because they go second, they could possibly get a 2-prize knockout on their second turn. Now, granted, you know, this deck has a way of denying that 2-prize turn, that 2-prize first turn of Raging Bolt. Because we can send out the Pikachu. The Pikachu with the Resolute Heart ability can kind of like just, you know, wall them out. Especially if they do not have the energies or the resources to get up a very early Slitherwing to knock out an active Pika, which they really don't do going second. So Pika in the active, or have a Joltik or a Magnemite in the active, a 1-prizer. They have to take a 1-prize instead of a 2-prize. Then you could come up and do your thing, and from there you can kind of take the game because you're going to be going 2 prizes when they've already knocked out a 1-prize. They're already off their game. Yes, they have the Slither Wing, which can knock out a Pika due to the burn, but that's only one Pika. I've got 3. So you deal with one, but I've got more Pikas. I can just send on another one, and it's ready because of the Joltik, and I can Crispin to it, get more energies on it, and then if I need to, I've got Magneton that could basically power it up. So I've got many ways to just keep energies on the field, energies on the board, ready to attack those Raging Bolts and also those Ogopons. Terrapagos. Just like the Miraidon deck, this deck also beats the Terrapagos Dusknoir deck. You one-shot the Terrapagos, easy. Now, if the Terrapagos deck was the Crown Opal build, where you had the multiple energies and it was able to use Crown Opal, that could pose a problem because we would have to boss around the Terrapagos. But Terrapagos, we're talking about is Terrapagos Dusknoir deck with double turbo. And just like the Miraidon deck beats it, this deck also beats it for the same reasons. Hydreigon. Hydreigon is a favorable matchup because Hydreigon is too slow. Hydreigon is slowly building up, slowly evolving, getting their Pokemon out. They want to go behind so they can try to disrupt you. They counter catcher, whatever. They want to try to disrupt you in order to get their Pokemon up, get set up, and either mill cards from your deck with the first attack, or the second attack, spread damage, and snipe the bench. But they're slow to start. So it's kind of like a slow Guardy, but I would say Hydreigon is a little bit faster than Guardy, but still slow. You know what I'm saying? And so, with my deck, I'm able to be faster than the Hydreigon. If I'm faster than the Hydreigon, even though I'm going Joltik for a turn, attaching energies, but I'm not attacking, but after that, I'm attacking every turn because I at least have 2 Pikachus ready to go, or Pikachu in the Iron Hands ready to go, and I can just keep firing with that, Crispin, and Magneton. I can just keep up the pressure, and Hydreigon can't keep up. Now, if they somehow disrupt you, then they can come back and, deal big blows. But that's only if they get that disruption off. Unfavorable matchups. Charizard, Pidgeot. Unfavorable matchup. Charizard, Pidgeot, Dusknoir. Unfavorable. It's unfavorable because Zard is just Zard. Zard is just that good with Pidgeot. Pidgeot just helps them search out everything they want once they get it going, once they get set up. And sometimes there's just nothing you can do about it. There are ways you can beat Zard Pidgeot. You've got the Gravity Mountain that helps you get over the Zard. You can one-shot everything else in the deck. You hit weakness on the Pidgeot. You can Iron Hands them, with Iron Hands, some of their Pokemon, if they haven't set them up. You've got ways to beat Zard. It's just that Zard is so good in what it does. And when it sets up, you know, it's unfavorable because of that. The Dusknoir does help them a lot. Now, it depends on the game, where you're at in the game. If you are able to knock out their Dusknoir, Dusclops, or the baby little Duskull before they evolve it, before they use it, which can happen because they could just sit there with the Duskull or the Dusclops and they're just waiting. They're just waiting for that perfect turn to kind of just take all their prizes at once. If they sit there and do that, you have the opportunity to go in and take out that Duskull before they do that. And that literally will set them back. And they will no longer be able to win the game. Like that, they have to hit the Pika, but Pika won't get knocked out. So now you're in a game-winning position because you've knocked out their Duskull. And most of the time, they'll only be able to get one Duskull or Dusclops or Dusknoir up, while they have the rest of the bench is catering to the Zard, Pidgeot, and the support Pokemon. So there is a way to beat Zard, but it is unfavorable. Regidrago, Goodra is also unfavorable. Notice I said Regidrago, Goodra. Regidrago with Goodra. Now, not all lists play with the Goodra. And the Goodra in some instances can be good and bad can be good and bad in the Regidrago, depending on the matchups they want to face. So Regidrago Goodra is bad for this version of Pikachu because Goodra just basically, it walls you off. 200 and it's minus 80 damage to the Goodra. Well, Drago using the Goodra. I would have to gust around the Regidrago, or somehow try to deal with that active Regidrago, which you really can't do. Also, the Goodra with the 200 helps set up the 4 prize turn on the next turn where the Regidrago player can use Dragapult and either boss or catcher up something and go take 200 hit on the active and deal damage to the Pokemon that has the 200 damage from the Goodra on the bench. You can just use some of the 6 damage counters from the Dragapult attack to knock that out. So it sets up the 4 prize turn, which is very bad for my deck. And there's honestly nothing I could do about it if the Regidrago player gets, set up. Now, obviously there is a way that I could win if I knock out their only Regidrago and they're not able to get enough energy switches, to attack with a second Regidrago, or they don't have a Regidrago on the bench, whatever, to follow up. So, but it is an unfavorable matchup. Miraidon. Miraidon is an unfavorable matchup for this Pika Miraidon deck. The reason being is because of my Joltik. My Joltik only has 30 HP, which means that Miraidon with Iron Hands can basically take, 2 prizes on my Joltik, which hurts very, very badly. Them going second, I just can't leave I can't leave Joltik in the active or to get hit by Iron Hands. I have to lead with Pikachu or something so that they can't Iron Hands me. Now, don't get me wrong. We can answer the Iron Hands. We can answer the Miraidon, the Raikous, whatever. We could basically battle back, you know, just like that. But just simply because Miraidon can use Iron Hands on my Joltik, and they go second, and they get the first 2 prize knockout, they could just race me for the 2 prize knockout, and they got it. Once you get the first 2 prizes, it's literally over. So Miraidon is an unfavorable matchup because of that. Ancient Box is an unfavorable matchup because they mostly use basic Pokemon. I mean, you know, their basic deck, I'm a 2 prize deck. It doesn't look good. You know, but there was an Ancient Box deck that got 2 prizes in the deck. That isn't an unfavorable matchup. That is actually a favorable matchup. If you got 2 prizes in your Ancient Box deck, you're literally throwing. You're literally throwing. But other than that, it is an unfavorable matchup just because they are single prizers. There is a way that you can win. You know, you can go Iron Hands with a Defiance Band on it after they've knocked out a Pokemon to knock out their baby Roaring Moon. You can also use Iron Hands on their Greninja on the bench because they always play Greninja. You can catch up to Greninja or boss up the Greninja, knock it out, 2 prizes. If you go Iron Hands early, very, very early, and they don't have enough Ancient Pokemon in the discard pile to handle the Iron Hands can steal 4 prizes from the Ancient Box player, which will set you up to win the game. And that's your game plan. That's your game plan. Other than that, it is unfavorable. Now, these are most of the matchups that, you know, that we're normally going to see, you know, you're normally going to see on a regular basis. As far as like control or stall, we're not going to see that much of it. You may face maybe 1 stall deck or something, like at a regional. You'll face maybe 1 or 2 stall decks, maybe. Now, I mean, if there's like 5, 6, like if stall somehow, like if everybody's playing stall, if stall makes the day 1 graphic at number 3, yeah, you need to be running for the hills somehow. You know what I'm saying? But that's just not going to happen. Stall is just one of those decks that few people play well. You're only going to hit maybe 1. Now, on a local level, you can be scared a little bit because, you know, if you hit that 1, you know, you're kind of like in like a challenge or a local or whatever. That hurts more. That hurts worse than hitting a stall at a regionals, because that 1 loss can basically knock you down, knock you out of contention for the top 4 in Elite Challenge or even in Elite Cup, can possibly knock you out of making top 8. Especially early on. If you take an early loss to a stall deck, early on, especially in a cup, you know, you're now going to have to win out the rest of your games in order to make the top 8. And, you know, that really hurts. That's really going to hurt. You know, I mean, that's happened to me so many times where you get hit by an unfavorable deck and early on, and then you're not able to, you know, come back and make a run, you know, because you just get knocked down into all of the degenerate decks. You know, instead of hitting all the meta decks that you want to hit. You know. So that's definitely happened to me many, many times. But other than that, this deck, this Pika deck is amazing. Ran great all day Saturday, only taking 2 losses. One was the Regidrago. The other one was to a Raging Bolt deck that I made a misplay against. Misplay error against. But yeah. This has been a long video that I've talked about this deck, and you know, I made my own meta chart for this deck because there isn't a meta chart for this deck, because this deck isn't a regular meta deck. So when you're building a deck, when you're making a deck, you have to make your own meta chart, you know, based on the decks you face, based on your experiences and what you go through. You can make your own meta chart. You don't have to go by the meta charts that they have online or what everybody goes with, like, oh, this is the meta chart, this is, you know, this because of this, and this. Well, if you know your deck and you build your deck, you know, and you know the ins and outs of your deck, and you know what it wins against and what it loses against, you can make your own meta chart. And, you know, and from that point, you know, you use your own meta chart, your own understanding in order to help you to, you know, not only win better games, but get or use whatever your unfavorable matchups are. You can use that to basically help you get around those unfavorable matchups, figure out how to make those better. Or if you're out of regionals, try to dodge them. You try to dodge them. You try to dodge them, or, you know, or if you hit one, you hit one. You hit one out of everything else that you hit. So, but that's on a regional level. On a local level, you kind of have to just, you know, figure out a roll with the punches on how you can deal with your unfavorable matchups. But it depends on if your local is heavy on your unfavorable matchups. If they are heavy on your unfavorable matchups, yeah, I would definitely not be playing with Pikachu. If your locals is heavy on Regidrago, heavy on Zard, heavy on Miraidon, heavy on your unfavorable matchups, I would not be playing Pika. But if your locals is diverse and you've got Cerulean, Lost Pika, Lugia, Guardy, Godango, Raging Bolt, if you have like a mix of everything and people want to try their decks, new decks, their things they want to play, they want to throw at the wall, you can play your Pika deck because everybody will be playing whatever they want to play. So that's the way you kind of have to look at it locally. regional wise. You kind of have to look at a broader picture of, you know, what you're mostly going to see, you know. So, other than that, that is the deck list. I will put the deck list in the description of this video. I'm not gonna do a layout like I usually do before. I'm just gonna actually put just the list in the description. But yeah, this deck was very good. Only 2 losses. I did have 3 ties. Now the 3 ties that I had, where we went to time, usually happened because of, you know, my opponent trying to find a way to play around my Pikachus. Pikachus, with its Resolute Heart ability, literally keeps my opponent from trying to win the game like that. So they have to find a way. They have to find a way to try to deal with my board, you know. And this was a very brand new deck that they've never seen. You know what I'm saying? They've never seen this, and it was a very good setup. I'm threatening 2 Pikas, you know, 2 attacking Pikas right from the get-go after the Joltik charge. I'm threatening Pikas on the board, threatening Iron Hands, threatening attackers, and, you know, they have to deal with that. And that does take time. Now some of them were kind of stalling a little bit, trying to, well, not stalling per se, but trying to figure out, you know, how to deal with my board. Now, back on my turns, you know, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, you know, did what I needed to do. And I had to deal with what was on their side, on their board. And since I know what they're playing, I know their decks, because I played against all meta decks, except for the Ancient Box. I played against all meta decks. Every single meta deck in this meta was known. I know their list. I know the decks. I know the techs. I know everything that's in the Raging Bolt decks. I know everything that's in the Regidrago decks. The Zard Dustnors, the Lugias, the Guardies, the Lost Pikas. I know exactly what how their decks are playing. I know exactly what they want to do, their game plans, everything. So I know exactly how to handle them. They don't know how to handle my deck. They don't know what to do and how to handle it. Regidrago, just by default, using Goodra, can handle me. Just by default. Just by Regidrago being Regidrago, using the dragon's attacks just normally, just by default, automatically knows how to deal with it. But that's just Drago, but that's the way Drago is, because only Regidrago can use Goodra and Dragapult like that. Regidrago also has canceling clones as well, so that is another unfavorable part. But what I'm saying here is this. You know, every single deck in this format is a meta deck. This isn't a meta deck. This isn't a meta deck yet. It can be a meta deck. It can be a meta deck, but this isn't a meta deck yet. And since it's not in the meta, since it's not known meta, they don't know how to handle my deck. And that's why I have the 3 ties. So, you know, you can say, oh, play faster, play faster. I'm playing faster. So, you know what I'm saying? So that's why usually, you know, that's why the ties happened. And that's why I have the 3 ties instead of either 3 wins or 3 losses. I mean, I'd rather have the ties than the losses. You know what I'm saying? But I'd also rather have the wins because, you know, some of those games I was actually in a winning position. It's just that time was up and we couldn't play the game anymore. And so, you know, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Other than that, this deck is fantastic. I implore you to try it out. Take it, tinker with it. You know, hey, cook with it more. Cook with it more. You know, make some changes to it. Everybody out there is not a deck builder, but I know that, you know. But you know, take it, see how you like it. If there's some changes you want to make some changes. Hey, let me know. Let me know in the comments, you know, what you got. What's the spice, you know? Because, like, and that's the one thing. If I'm doing this and I'm showing this deck off, I want people to copy this and take it and make it better. You make it better and you showcase it and you bring it out. Now it can become meta. And my job is done. But yeah, this was fantastic. Just a very great deck, very good deck, and people were really surprised and shocked at how good it was. So, let me stop talking because this is a very long video. I'm gonna let you guys go, but definitely try this out. Like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, make sure you take care of yourself and each other. Thank you.